Now into episode 16 through 18. Starting with episode 16. We begin with Eve coming into the shop and telling everyone about her plan to turn into Sean so that she can spy out what's going on with Blacklaw and all. And everyone's just like, yeah, is that possible? And she's like, yep, I already done it. And then was like, okay, that must be weird. They start having images in their head of what we already got to see of just the transformation. It's just weird. Huge body with tiny head, and it's like uncomfortable looking. Just very uncomfortable looking. So that's something. That is definitely something. She makes this plan and everyone agrees, let's try it out. Meanwhile, a preacher, like a traveling preacher, is doing this show in where he takes on everyone's evil and he turns into the devil. That's what he does. He's just Wesen. And he's, one of those classic traveling preachers who are more about fame than they are about actually helping people. Now, in this case, it actually is kind of the opposite, where it actually gives this idea of like, yeah, he is tricking people, but he's tricking people in a good way of like, let's bring people closer to God and all through this tricking people, and that's not a good thing. But I will give them that I'm glad they didn't just go down the route of everyone else where it's just traveling preacher is just making money off of people. No, it's more of like he's actually trying to help people, but he's doing it in a bad way of like just flat out you don't help people by lying to them. Any form of sin does not help people grow closer to God. That's only harming yourself. Anyways, but the point is, this one guy takes a video of it. He tries to escape, and one of the bodyguards catches him and says, you need to delete that. And he's like, no. And he pushes the guy, causing him to fall to the ground and killing the guy. But the man with the video gets away. You figure that the man is actually took that video so he could bring it back to another church where the ex-wife of this preacher has this group where they're trying to solve how he turns into the devil, and they think he's possessed and that, like, he cheated on her with some people, and she thinks that he wasn't the one who did it, and it was just the demons who told him to do it, and he wasn't in control. And so she's like, now that they had proof that he turns into the devil, they know that he's possessed, and they're going to kidnap him and get the demon out of him. So, like a Judas, they get one of his bodyguards to betray him and allow them to kidnap him. And when they go to deliver the money to him, they find that he killed himself, just like Judas, hung himself. This man's name was Luke, though. Anyways, but I thought that was an interesting tie into the Bible there. Meanwhile, Eve turns into Sean and meets up with the campaign manager and figures out that they've been sleeping together, and so she has to sleep with her, which brings so many questions up. It does have some hints of, she says, like, maybe better luck next time, meaning like there's a high chance she couldn't perform as him, which just a really weird concept to try to grasp. Like, how would that work? But anyways, she managed to get some answers out of her. Now they know what's going on, and yes, she was correct that he did not know about the assassination originally, but now Sean does know, and he's still running for mayor despite that. Meanwhile, Monroe takes the cloth of the stick to a friend of his who's trained in ancient cloths and stuff like that, and they're able to get some words out of it, and the words spell out basically miracle dangerous. And so they're correct. It's a miracle stick, but it's also super dangerous, and they have to figure what's going on with that. And we'll figure more in the end of the season a little bit about that. And then the episode ends with Eve telling everything she knows, and then she also warns Nick that Adeline's powers will be coming back soon, and that he should be warned that when they come back, she may not be the same Adeline as he's used to right now. And so we know already, they actually already have come back, and she hasn't told him yet. The next episode, this is going to be a sentence. A Wesen ninja breaks into a teenager's house and kidnaps him and beheads him. Basically what happens is this teenager killed this other kid by accident and got away with it, along with his friend. And so this Wesen, who feels like he's getting revenge on the kid who was murdered, goes and kidnaps this other guy and buries him in sand up to his neck and then beheads him. Really interesting story, and it's insane. But I love it. I love it. I don't love seeing people get beheaded, but you know what I'm saying. And basically what happens is Nick investigates this and able to figure out who's doing it. It's a lawyer who originally had tried to get these kids put in jail for the killing of this one kid, but couldn't, so he's now going after them in this way, feeling like he's getting justice for the family by doing that. But the family does not agree with beheading these kids, who, yes, they did kill the kid on accident, and these parents eventually have to just come to that realization, like, yes, it was an accident. Meanwhile, also in this episode, you have it so Rosalie finally just tells Nick that Adeline has changed back, and so now Nick has a new reason to mistrust Adeline, because Adeline did not tell him. And we'll figure out more why Adeline didn't tell him. She hasn't told him yet, and now he's like, okay, I don't know if I can trust Adeline fully because of that. Like, she's keeping secrets from me. And Adeline later on in the episode is talking to Nick, and she says we should be more honest with each other, but she doesn't tell him. Neither does he tell her about the stick. So they're both not fully being honest with each other yet. As the episode ends with Monroe and Rosalie, who's in the tunnel putting the cloth back with the stick and all, and they get stuck down there when Adeline shows back up at home, and then Eve shows up at that house and talks to Adeline about the fact that she better watch herself and not hurt Nick. In this next episode, Rosalie points out that is exactly like something that Juliet would say, so meaning that whatever Eve says, there is deep down still some Juliet down there, and we're going to be talking about that later on in the end of the season when something happens that causes a little more Juliet coming out. And then the episode ends with Sean coming home to find Rachel there, along with a special gift for him, which is Diana. Diana is back in the show again, and she knows who her father is. So now let's go on to the next episode. The next episode begins with a man getting into a car accident. He's drunk driving. This Wesen comes up and kidnaps him and squashes him to pieces and then sucks out all his bones. So then Nick finds this man with no bones, just a floppy skin mess, and that's something. That is definitely something. So now he's investigating, is there any Wesen who somehow steals people's bones, threw them out? Pretty interesting concept. Meanwhile, Wu, as I mentioned in the last episode, is having dreams. Now finds his hand just transforming into something different and then just untransforming again. And he's like, he doesn't know exactly what's happening. You figure out that the Wesen who took this guy's bones is using it to feed his parents the liquid bone that can help keep them alive and all. And so now we know why he's doing it, and he doesn't really want to do it, he just has to keep his parents alive. But doesn't justify squashing someone and then stealing their bones, but what he has to do, so explains why he's doing it. Nick and the team figures out what type of Wesen's behind it, and so they stage a trap using Monroe as bait, making sure it smells like he's dying, even though he's not dying, so that the man comes in and they can capture him. The only problem is, while they're staking out, Wu sees a raccoon and decides he wants to eat the raccoon. So then Wu transforms into a monster and starts chasing the raccoon, only for the raccoon to get away and him to get hurt on the head, causing him to start bleeding out to death. And the man suddenly is like, ooh, that kill smells more fresh. And so he goes off to go capture Wu, but they manage to stop him before he squashes Wu. And then when they take him down and he runs off, only to get hit by another truck and die. When they take him to the morgue, his parents come in and they do the same thing he's been doing to these other guys, and they like suck out his bones, which is, again, really weird. But hey, that's how those Wesens do things, apparently. And then the episode ends with Sean asking Adeline to meet up. They meet up in a parking garage where he kidnaps her and takes her to a hidden place where she's introduced to Diana again. So now the whole family's back together. Adeline now officially has seen Diana again since when she was a baby. And that's where the last thing I want to mention in this video, that just kind of like, okay, you have a little bit in the very last episode of the season where Adeline mentioned something about Kelly Burkhart, you know, the person who raised Adeline for a long time. But, like, in the same way, it's like, okay, she knows who her parents are. Like, I kind of get it, like, maybe because she's magic. And so, technically, she should only be, like, 2 years old. But she's, like, 10 in the series. Because of her magic abilities, she's aging faster than normal. Which also makes it so, while she's the age of 10, she kind of is still developing in other ways. So, we're going to be talking about in the next video about how disturbing she is, but she doesn't know right from wrong that well, and so she's willing to kill people, she's willing to do whatever, you know, she's an evil child, and it's kind of awesome to see. Like, the next 2 seasons, Diana is a crazy person, and it's so much fun. But the question I have is, so she calls her parents daddy and mommy, right? Makes that kind of sense, but like, what I'm wondering about is, okay, so why doesn't she ever ask, like, where's, the mommy she was raised by? She barely knows her mom and her dad. Somehow she knows about them. Like, I don't know fully how. Like, again, Diana is very powerful, so she probably has memories from long before everyone else will. But still, like, I'm very surprised that she doesn't ever seem to ask. Even when she meets Nick later on, again, in the finale, we will hear where Adeline points out that Nick is the son of the person who raised her for a year. But in the same way, she's never, like, throughout the whole series, like, outside of that one mention, it doesn't really bring up the fact of, like, okay, yeah, no, she was raised for a good part of her life. Like, the closest thing she ever had to a mother for most of her life was Kelly Burkhart. So why doesn't she ever ask about Kelly? Why doesn't she ever be like, where's mommy? Where's Kelly? Like, you know, Kelly Burkhart's my mom. Like, to her, that's it would make the most sense, like Kelly being her mom and all, but she doesn't really like ask about that at all. I'm like, I get it, Adeline's actually her mother, and so they would want to have that connection there, but it doesn't seem that she ever mentions the fact that, yeah, the only thing she ever had close to her mother was Kelly, so I don't know. Anyways, guys, but yeah, these episodes are pretty fun. It's great to have Diana back in the series again. Diana's a very confusing character. As I said before, she's kind of disturbing in a lot of ways. Yes, we'll talk about more in the next episode about that, but it's just, there's some confusing stuff about, you know, her age and how old she is and all that, like how she works, why doesn't she remember certain characters, like, anyways, but these episodes are pretty fun. The ninja, that was always one of my favorite episodes when I first watched the series. It's just like such a cool looking villain, such an awesome episode. Like, these episodes are pretty fun, so honestly, as I said in the last video, not my favorite episodes, but these ones are pretty solid too. So we'll talk about the next 3 episodes, hopefully in a couple days. So stay tuned for that. This has been the Movie Night Reviewer. Till next time, Peter Wary, signing off.